It is well over 2 centuries since Captain James Cook made his great epic journey up the east coast of Australia. Now an exact replica of his ship, His Majesty's bark Endeavour, is retracing this great voyage of discovery. The scene has been set for a great step back into history, a chance for the people of today to renew their knowledge of this great voyage, marvel over the resourcefulness of these explorers, and perhaps relive in their minds the events that took place by studying parts of Cook's journal. Captain Cook had on board with him members of the Royal Society, including Joseph Banks, a natural scientist, and Sydney Parkinson, a young man with a great talent as a natural artist. It was the combined skills of all these men that contributed such a lot to the world's knowledge of the great South Land that was to be named Australia, by taking back to England charts of the coastline and paintings and specimens of the flora and fauna unique to this continent. Cook was a remarkable man, renowned for his navigational skills. His charts and surveys were superior to all that preceded them, and he employed a new technique known as a running survey. He used the latest instruments and a complex formula only developed in the 1760s. Unlike Cook, who was virtually self-taught, Banks was well educated with an obsessive interest in natural history. He discovered and named more than 2,000 new species of native plants unique to this land, and these were illustrated by Parkinson in great detail. This very stiff interpretation of a kangaroo was done by an English painter from a skin brought back by Banks, but Parkinson's sketch was done on the voyage and captured the unique action of a kangaroo. Today, people have the opportunity to step back in time and feel the spirit of yesterday as they walk the decks of the Endeavour, as Cook did. They can experience the cramped conditions under which the crew lived. Head height was a mere 4 feet in the sleeping quarters. By comparison, Cook's cabin was very comfortable. Walking through these quarters, you can almost sense the presence of these men of history. The great cabin at the stern was very spacious, and Cook used this as his chart room. As he drew his charts, Cook was meticulous in the recording details of the coastline he was passing. Historians who have studied his charts and journals since have sometimes disagreed on the interpretation of these writings. One instance of this was the entry he made on the 16th of May 1770, when the Endeavour was off what is now the Tweed coast. On the afternoon before, it was noted that a peaked hill was in sight. Broken water and reefs were ahead. With this danger in sight, he headed seaward and hove to. Next morning, Cook noted in his journal, "The reefs stretch off east 2 leagues from a point under where is a small island. Their situation may always be found by the peaked mountain before mentioned, and on this account I have named it Mount Warning. The point off which these shoals lay I have named Point Danger." Is Cook's Point Danger really Point Danger, or is it what we know today as Fingal Head, some little distance to the south? This matter was carefully considered by the Geographical Names Board of Queensland, but because of long usage, the name Point Danger was left as denoting the headland on the Queensland-New South Wales border, where the Cook Memorial Lighthouse is situated. However, controversy still exists and has resurfaced again with this voyage of the Endeavour replica. A local historian who has researched this question extensively is Mr. Bill Stafford.
It has been said that by some that Fingal was his elected landmark, a matter which I refute completely. there being a great difference in the presentation of the 2 points as seen from the ocean and certainly from where Cook entered upon the scene and fell upon the reefs. Now, from his distance at sea, Fingal is an unrecognisable feature. Through 13 degrees of his passing, Fingal would have been completely obscured behind the mass of Cook Island, which is much higher and much wider.
Early navigators following Cook had no difficulty in identifying that this most prominent point, as seen from the sea, was indeed the original Point Danger. The only explorer to support the Fingal theory was John Oxley in 1823. Bill goes on to explain that Oxley had approached from the north, the opposite direction to Cook, which showed a totally different aspect of the scene. Therefore, Bill considers that Oxley had made a misjudgment. Plaques erected by the local councils at Point Danger and Fingal convey the view that Fingal was Cook's Point Danger, blaming an early surveyor for the error back in 1840. Bill is concerned that by leaving these plaques displayed, opinion rather than proven fact could result in a distortion of history. This problem may never be solved to everyone's satisfaction, but a telling point is the further statement Cook wrote in his journal as he passed Point Danger. To the north of this point, the land is low and tends northwest by north, but we soon found that it did not keep that direction long before it again turned more to the northward. This seems to confirm that Fingal could not be Cook's Point Danger, as this does not describe the beach north of Fingal, but describes the great sweep of beach we know today as the Gold Coast, as it stretches from Point Danger past Coolangatta north to Surfers Paradise and on to Point Lookout. As the new Endeavour retraces the steps of the original along this same beach today, we are fascinated by what this replica represents. The remarkable voyage of Captain Cook and his very talented associates, and his skill of charting parts of the world's largest ocean, replacing old maps drawn from imagination with maps drawn from accurate observation. There is no doubt that this voyage has rekindled the interest and aroused the pride of the Australian people. The spirit returns.